Somewhere in the world, roughly 2 people die every second. It is the one experience every human being will eventually share. And yet what actually happens inside the brain in those final minutes has, until very recently, been almost a complete mystery. But in the last few years, scientists have managed to do something extraordinary. They've recorded a human brain in the very act of dying. And what they found was not silence. It was a storm. Here's the strange part. We tend to imagine death as a light switching off. One moment on, the next moment nothing. But the brain doesn't seem to work that way. Dying, it turns out, may be less like a switch and more like a sequence. It started with an accident. In 2016, doctors were recording the brainwaves of an 87-year-old man who had epilepsy, watching for seizures. Then, mid-recording, he had a heart attack and died, with the EEG still running. For the first time ever, scientists had captured the electrical activity of a human brain across the actual moment of death. The results were published in 2022, and they stunned the research team. In the roughly 30 seconds before and after the heart stopped, the brain didn't just fade out. It produced a surge of gamma waves, the fastest, highest energy brain waves we have. And here's why that matters. Gamma waves are the same signals your brain produces when you're remembering, dreaming, or deep in meditation. The dying brain was generating the exact pattern of vivid recall. The lead neurosurgeon, Dr. Ajmal Zemar, put forward a haunting idea, that in our final moments, the brain may play a kind of last highlight reel, a recall of meaningful memories from across an entire life. Now, one patient is just one patient. It could have been a fluke. Except it wasn't the first hint. Years earlier, in 2013, researchers had seen almost the same thing in dying rats, a sharp burst of gamma activity right after the heart stopped. Then, in 2023, a team at the University of Michigan studied 4 patients who were dying after life support was withdrawn. In 2 of them, as oxygen levels collapsed, the brain lit up again. The surge appeared in a region scientists sometimes call the brain's hot zone for consciousness, the junction where the temporal, parietal, and occipital lobes meet, an area tied to dreams and out-of-body sensations. But this is where we have to be careful. These are tiny studies, a handful of patients. The brains had no normal baseline to compare against. And most importantly, none of these people could ever wake up and tell us what, if anything, they felt. A surge of memory-like brain activity is not the same as proof of a conscious experience. The honest answer is that we can see the fireworks, but we don't yet know if anyone is home to watch them. So scientists tried another angle, the people who came back. In 2023, a major study called AWARE-2 monitored 567 patients whose hearts had stopped, recording their brains during CPR. What they found defied the textbooks. Doctors long assumed the brain flatlines within minutes of losing oxygen. But in some patients, near normal brain activity flickered back, sometimes up to an hour into resuscitation. And a number of survivors described something remarkable: lucid, structured experiences, a sense of separating from the body, a review of their lives, weighed and judged. Not confusion, clarity, right at the edge of death. The researchers were careful. They say these experiences have been neither proven nor disproven, only that they are real enough and consistent enough to deserve serious science instead of dismissal. But if the brain doesn't simply switch off, what finally ends it? The answer may be something researchers have named the wave of death. When blood flow stops, neurons fight to hold their charge for as long as they can. Then, minutes later, they lose the battle all at once, and a single, massive electrical wave sweeps across the brain. A tsunami of depolarization, the true point of no return. And here's the strangest twist of all. That wave is not necessarily final. If blood flow is restored fast enough, it can sometimes be reversed. It's part of why every second of CPR genuinely matters. So when does death actually happen? The line is blurrier than we like to admit. The heart stops. Seconds later, the surge. Minutes later, the wave. Doctors typically declare death somewhere between 2 and 10 minutes after circulation ends. Death, it seems, is not a single instant. It's a process, a cascade of events unfolding in the dark, in an order we are only now beginning to map. We still don't know what it feels like, or whether it feels like anything at all. But the science hints at something oddly gentle, that the brain's final act may be to turn inward, toward memory, toward the people and moments that made up a life. Maybe that's the most human thing the brain ever does. If this gave you something to sit with, subscribe. I dig into the science behind the biggest questions we all face. I'll see you in the next one.